I think Western executives need to go into China understanding who they are, being confident about who they are, understanding there are differences, and being sensitive to those differences. But it's not about necessarily changing the way you necessarily do things. Oftentimes executives need to drink in China to form those what they perceive as bonds and business bonds and the quote unquote guanxi in China. And sometimes you see executives go a little bit overboard and drink a little bit too much to try to kind of be a part of that culture. And I've seen this happen many times where it's not been pretty in terms of how the outcomes of those types of drinking binges or whatever you want to call them. But that's something that I would think that as a Western executive, that you don't feel like it's necessary to participate in those things beyond what you're comfortable with. I think the biggest step that companies can take with regard to cybercrime is to make sure that their own corporate systems are adequately secure, potentially working with US vendors with a long track record, because you can never be sure of whether or not your emails are being read, or how deeply penetrated your systems are, or I would say vulnerable your systems are. The key components of dealing with state-owned enterprises in China, really it's about knowing the right people within the government to develop an understanding with, and really understanding what the national goals are. Understanding where China wants to be strategically, if you're dealing with technology, for example. Understanding what the other side's interests are of key importance there. Because state-owned enterprises are essentially the arm of the Chinese government. And if you understand the Chinese government's intentions or their goals, you'll be better positioned to position yourself in that light. So the question, I think, was, is China more of a copycatter than a real innovator? I would think if you look at the history of China, again, paper came from China, gunpowder came from China. I mean, all of those innovations came from China, so I wouldn't say that it's an inherent thing that they are not innovative. I think, look, the progress that they've made in the last 20 years has been unprecedented in history, and you can't expect somebody to go from a country to go from poverty to innovation in one generation. So I think there is a time lag there. And I would question the notion of innovation. What is innovation? Isn't innovation just building off of somebody else's ideas and making it better? So I would argue that even the copycats that you see today in terms of the Chinese Facebook or the Chinese Twitter, there are very distinct Chinese characteristics that are not available in the current form of Twitter or Facebook that these other companies have created to satisfy the Chinese audience. And I think that in itself is a form of innovation. The benefits of going to China are that there possibly is great opportunity for your company to grow and establish a new client base, not only in China, but outside of China, in the Asia and Pacific region. Now, I would say that the big hurdle is conquering China. It is very difficult for foreign companies to succeed in China. The opportunity is definitely in front of them, but there are numerous factors that make it more difficult. One of them being working with the government. Secondly, understanding the culture. The best way to choose a partner in terms of helping you navigate China really is about looking at track record. So making sure that they have a track record of helping companies like yourselves succeed in China. And I would say number two is understanding really what relationships they can bring to the table. Now that's the trickiest part, because everybody will tell you that they have great relationships in China, that they know all the government officials that you'll need to know. So, I think it's a matter of track record and an element of doing your due diligence, making sure that this entity that you're talking to really does have those relationships, and obviously maybe talking to former clients in terms of their experience working with this entity.